Very good morning to all of you. So we will start the lecture 2 of our course on advanced hydraulics. As we have mentioned in the last class, the topic on advanced hydraulic is applicable to water resources engineering and even in various hydraulic project related engineerings. In the last class, we had not mentioned some of the references that we are going to deal in the particular course. Today, just illustrate some of the reference textbooks which we are going to deal. First one is Professor Rajesh Srivastav, Professor Rajesh Srivastav's book on flow through open channels. This is published by Oxford Higher Education. Another textbook or which we will refer is on Professor K. Subramania's book on flow in open channels. This book is published by Tata McGraw-Hill. Next we will be following is Professor M. Hanif Chowdhury's book on open channel flow. This book is brought to you by Springer Publications. And one more book which we will be going through is Professor V.T. Chow, his book on open channel hydraulics. Published by McGraw-Hill International Limited. In addition to these books, we may also refer some of the other books available already in the market or even in the websites. We will also try to update with the latest information available in our course related matters. So, as was mentioned in the last class, we will be having regular quizzes as a part of evaluation on this course. So, the students are advised to be always attentive on the course lectures. They have to be prepared for the quiz at any time, even during the middle of a lecture or during the beginning of the lecture or during the end of the lecture, and it may be taken in a random way. Today, we will be conducting the quiz on the last day's lecture in the beginning of this lecture today. It was well advised to you before coming to the class itself that there will be a quiz on yesterday's lecture. So, today let us just give you a quiz on the following topics. First question for quiz 1. First question on quiz 1 is, who suggested that the quantity pressure is not having any directions in fluids? You have to name the scientist who has suggested that pressure is not having any direction in fluids. The second question is, who developed the barometer? Who was the scientist who developed barometer first? The next question is, name the scientist who measured velocity of flow in a river by his own pedometer method. Name the scientist who developed his own pedometer methods to measure river velocity. The fourth and final question. Give the names of some well-known hydraulic projects in India. Okay, give 5 names. Give names of 5 some well-known hydraulic projects in India. So you are requested to think on the questions, answer them appropriately. Your answer sheets will be collected immediately. We will give the solution of these questions after today's lecture. So as per our course contents, we described some modules, some 6 modules related to the course, and the first module is open channel flows. So we had discussed some of the contents of the open channel flows in this module. What all things we will go through in this particular module. Now, as a beginning, let us ask you, what is meant by open channel flow? What is meant by open channel flow? If any of you has some inputs on this question. You are free to discuss on that. So, open channel flow, it means that the flow of liquid which is open to atmosphere, the flow of liquid in which it is open to atmosphere, that is called open channel flow. You might have seen the various type of open channel flows in various situations, that is whether it is in rivers, whether it is in canals, whether it is in channels, various types of channels, even in large pipes where water is not fully occupying the cross sectional area. In various cases you will see open channel flow, that is, in these situations the flow, the top surface of the water, it is open to atmosphere. In rivers, canals, channels, it is readily visual to you. However, in pipes, say if there is a circular pipe and if the level of water is only this much and if it is open to atmosphere, if the top surface of water, if it is open to atmosphere, even in these closed pipes, the flow is called open channel flow. It does not matter if it is an enclosed conduit and all. If the top surface of water is open to atmosphere, it is considered as open channel flow. Why do you study open channel flow? What are the various purposes? Why do you want to study open channel flows? There are several reasons. You can enumerate them. This will enable you, if you study open channel flow, it will help you to measure discharge of water in rivers, canals, etc. It will help you to design canals for irrigation, for navigation, for various purposes. It will help you to design dams and find its capacities. It will also help you to understand, say, if any flood wave, if you take a particular channel, water is there, and if this is the bed of the channel, flow is occurring in this direction. If all of a sudden if some wave, flood waves appear, how the flood wave, say, if it is there, a certain flood wave, it may propagate in this direction, and how the movement of this flood wave occurs and how it affects the entire channel hydraulics that can be studied using your open channel flow methods. You can also study open channel, means by studying open channel flow, it will be useful for sediment transport analysis. Well, this is another course, sediment transport. By studying the same course, you will be able to find, say, you will be able to find the movement of biological organisms, living organisms in river, especially say if some fishes lay eggs in large quantities, how the movement of eggs occur in the channel, how they can affect, or how some of the human intervention can affect the movement of these living organisms, that can also be studied using open channel flow. You can also study the movement of pollutants in streams. So there are various reasons for which you can study open channel flow. So on open channel flows, now you need to identify what are the different classifications of open channels. What are the classifications of open channels? It can be analyzed in any way. You can classify open channels by any methods, that it is an individualistic property as it is mentioned. Say one can classify open channel based on some parameters, one can classify open channels based on some of the locations, one can classify open channels based on other variables, non-physical variables, physical variables. Whether it be anything, it is an individual property. However, let us suggest in our course that we can classify open channels basically with respect to two main parameters. That is, we are going to classify the open channels basically with respect to the channel properties as well as the flow properties. So one can classify open channels based on channel properties and flow properties. How can you classify them? What is meant by channel properties? What is meant by flow properties? So this again, it is, as mentioned, some of the individualistic perceptions, but there are some common theories behind this thing, and we will see some of the common definitions that are used for channel classifications. First, we will go through the channel properties to classify open channels. In short form, for open channel flows, I may write it OCF, and for open channel I may write in short form as OC. So in the classification of open channel, the open channel classifications based on channel properties. based on channel properties, you can define it, say A. Prismatic and non-prismatic channels. What is meant by prismatic and non-prismatic channels? As the word suggests, prismatic, it is something representing a prismoid form. If the cross section area of a channel, if it does not vary for a considerable stretch, if it is a uniform cross section throughout the reach of the channel, then such type of channels are called prismatic channels. If the cross sectional area varies with distance or with as you proceed in the length, if it varies considerably, those channels are called non-prismatic channels. If I just draw, say for example, if you observe a laboratory flume, I hope you know what is meant by laboratory flume. Students who have studied fluid mechanics and all, some of you might have already done some experiments in laboratory flumes and all. A laboratory flume is a channel established in lab with a uniform cross section that is used for studying various flow phenomenon. So, if a channel cross section, if this is a channel, artificially created channel, it is established in laboratory and all. Here it has a rectangular cross section, and the rectangular cross section is maintained throughout the length of the flume. Flow, you can analyze flow coming in and say water going out from this flume. All this phenomenon can be studied in such laboratory flumes. A laboratory flume is a classical example of prismatic channel. You might have also seen prismatic channels where, say, trapezoidal area is used for constructing a trapezoidal cross sectional area is used to construct irrigation channels, and most of the irrigation channels in India is of this particular cross section. Such type of channels, they are also called prismatic channels because its cross sectional area, it is uniform throughout the length of the stream. The next one is non-prismatic channel, and as the name mentioned, the cross sectional area varies with respect to the distance. So, it may have some a non-prismatic channel, for example, a river cross section, a natural drain cross section and all. There the cross sectional area, the width of the channel, the depth of the channel, they all vary with distance. So, they are classified as non-prismatic channels. Our next classification based on channel properties, they are natural and artificial channels. The next classification, you can give it as natural and artificial channels, that is naturally formed channels on earth, artificially man-made channels. You can give several explanations. These are all self-explanatory. So natural channels, you will see them in rivers, natural rains and all. Artificial channels, there are many artificial channels that are of utmost importance. You have already seen the case of laboratory effluent, which is a small structure. You may see various artificial channels that carry large amount of water. For example, if man would not have created artificially Suez Canal, or if you would not have created Panama Canal, how much difficult it would have been, or how much the human life had been made easier by construction of these artificial channels. So artificial channels are also quite prominent, and it need not be that always it should be the natural thing that has to be given predominance and all. Man has endured in the engineering science in such a way, he has tried to merge the natural things with the man-made things and all. So it's quite amazing. Next classification we can give based on the channel properties. Rigid and mobile boundary channels. What do you mean by mobile boundary channel? What do you mean by rigid boundary channel? Any guess? You know, in the channel flow, if there is a bed, water is flowing, it has a cross section, say maybe trapezoid, let us assume that trapezoid. So the channel boundaries include the channel bottom, the channel sides, all these things are coming into picture. So there are lot of interaction of water with the channel boundaries, bed, sides and all. If due to these interactions, if these boundaries, if they are not stable, if they also start, if the particles in that, if they also starts moving, whether it be in the bed, whether it be in the sides, such type of channels are called mobile boundary channels. And the reverse of that, that is, if even despite of enormous amount of flow in that channel, if these boundaries remain firm, such boundaries are called rigid boundary channels. If one go through the mobile boundary channels and all, you may see that erosion and all occurs along the boundaries. These erosions will lead to the sediment deposit in some other location. The sediment deposits, sediment transport, especially the sediment transportation and all. It is a much research topic nowadays, for especially for very large rivers or for any hydraulic project related issues and all. Sediment transport is quite large research topic. Well, we are not going into the details of sediment transport. This is another level postgraduate level course. You may be able to do research after undergoing this course and all. If you are interested, you can specialize on sediment transport and all. That will be much acclaimed. So till now we have classified channels based on the channel properties. Now we can classify channels based on flow properties. We can classify channels based on flow properties. How can you classify based on flow properties? Any guess from anyone? We have seen in the last class that is in the first class, in our first lecture, we have seen that any fluid property or any flow properties, they can be classified, or sorry, they can be described using the following parameters. Randomness, space, time. Using this following, using these three fundamental parameters, you can describe any fluid flow properties. So, if you want to classify any flow properties, you have to classify according to the descriptions on these fundamental parameters. Fine. So, let us see how these fundamental parameters, on the variations of these fundamental parameters, how the flow is classified. First, let us take randomness. Randomness is such a property that is attributed to a variable who is having random nature. It is attributed to a variable having random nature. So, a variable can exist in a probabilistic way or it can exist in a deterministic way. So, any fluid property that can be suggested as, say, if there is no randomness for that fluid property, then that fluid property is called deterministic fluid property. If there is no, if there are randomness appearing in the fluid properties, such things are called stochastic properties. So, or probabilistic. Sometimes in some of the things you may see probabilistic variable or probabilistic property. So, you can, based on these phenomena, you may identify the properties appropriately, any fluid flow properties appropriately. In our lecture, however, we are not going to deal on randomness. We will be dealing only with the deterministic nature of the fluid flow. The higher stochastic or probabilistic nature of the fluid flow and all will be dealt in higher level courses, which, as mentioned earlier, if you are interested, you can specialize them. Next, based on time, any fluid property, if it does not vary with respect to time, then that fluid property is called steady, and if it varies with respect to time, it is called unsteady. There is not required much, say any fluid property, if you can say velocity, discharge, depth of flow. Say if in a channel, if these properties at a location, if it is not varying with respect to time, then that flow is called steady flow. So, in channels you can suggest that such type of channels are called steady flow channels, or in the channel flows, those flows are steady flows. Similarly, if these properties vary with respect to time, they are unsteady open channel flows. Our next parameter is space. Here again we can classify, say if any fluid property, if you are not varying with respect to space considerably, if you are suggesting that for a considerable large location, if that fluid property, if it is clubbed together as some particular value, then that is called lump flow property, and if the properties, if it varies with respect to space, channel location at each small location, each distance from the origin, if the fluid properties varies and if you are measuring them, such things are called distributed flow properties. Usually lump flow properties and all, you may see if you take the cross sectional area for the entire cross sectional area of the river, if you are clubbing together to obtain a single discharge, or if you are clubbing together the velocity, if the entire cross section, if the river section may be quite large and all, still if you are using a common velocity term for the entire section without measuring at various locations, then that velocity is lumped with respect to space there. You are not averaging them. So, such things are called lumped properties, and the other things are distributed properties. So, let us see using these fundamental 3 parameters and all, how the fluid flow properties are named, especially with respect to space. As you have mentioned, lumped and distributed. As we have mentioned the lumped and distributed. In the distributed thing, based on your coordinate system, you can have one dimensional fluid flow properties, you can have 2-dimensional fluid flow properties, you can have 3-dimensional fluid flow properties. If we are following a Cartesian coordinate system, say x1, x2, x3 as the 3 basic directions in a Cartesian coordinate system, or you can, maybe you may be more familiar with such notation, x, y, z. The same coordinate system, if y is given in the other direction, x, y, z. The Cartesian coordinate system can be represented in any form. We may use any of this Cartesian coordinate system. You may see in higher order mathematical analysis and all, it is quite common to use the suffixes x1, x2, x3, etc. If there is n dimensional plane and all, n dimensional representation, they find it quite easier to represent x1, x2, x3, etc., xn as the n dimensional problem. In our 3-dimensional Cartesian coordinate system, for our simplicity, we can use the following x, y, z Cartesian coordinate system. So, how a one-dimensional problem varies in a Cartesian coordinate system. Let us take the channel bed and all. For a one-dimensional problem, if you are taking velocity as the property, if you want to identify velocity as a property, here based on your same coordinate systems, let us suggest say z axis, x axis. At any location, at any x, you may see the velocity of the flow is v, especially in the x direction. The flow is in the x direction, x, y, z, in the x, y, z Cartesian coordinate system. Here in the one-dimensional problem, we are assuming the flow is in x direction, and you will see that velocity here, this will be function of only x. Velocity in the one dimensional problem is not being suggested to vary with respect to the height in the z coordinate system. So, it is only a function of x. You may also see that the z coordinate itself is function of x in such situations. So, this is a one dimensional fluid flow proper representation. A two dimensional fluid flow representation you may give them, say again based on the coordinate system x, z. You will see that any fluid property V it varies, that is it varies with respect to the height z as well as it varies with respect to the x coordinate system. Here you can write V as function of x and z. Similarly, again z is also function of x in this case. So, you can represent velocity in both the coordinates, that is why it is a two dimensional problem. In this case only one dimension was used to represent the fluid property, whereas here two dimensions were used. That is how you classify them. You can again classify for a three dimensional case. For a three dimensional case, say if there is a large cross section of a river, the entire quantity here, velocity, it may depend on, say if your coordinate system x, y, z, suppose if these are the coordinate systems, or let us suggest that x, y, z, the positive right hand screw, the following coordinate system is being employed here x, y, z. You will see that the flow, if it is predominantly, even though if it is in this direction, the velocity here at any location, it will be function of x axis, y axis, z axis. You need the identities in x, y and z to describe the velocity vector there. You can describe maybe y and z with respect to x if that is possible in such flows and all, that will be dealt. So, higher order three dimensional problems and all, using various computational methods, one will be able to solve them. So, this is how you can classify using flow properties, various type of flow properties. What is meant by uniform flow and non-uniform flow? What do you mean by them? This is also classification based on flow properties. Uniform flow, as the name suggests, say any fluid properties, velocity, discharge, height, depth, whatever be, whatever properties you are taking, if these properties are uniform for a considerable stretch of the channel, then such type of flow are called uniform flow. say if a channel stretch of length L if it is taken, and if it is found that this velocity v from section AA to section BB, if it is having the same velocity throughout this length, then that is called uniform flow. Suppose if the velocity is varying, say at section A it is V1, at section BB it is V2, and if it is varying with respect to as it goes in the flow direction, then such type of flows are called non-uniform flows. So, in nature you will see most of the time non-uniform flow, and as well as it you will see unsteady flows with respect to time and all. Another classification based on flow properties is, as we have mentioned, non-uniform flow, uniform flow and non-uniform flow. In the non-uniform flow category, you can describe gradually varied flow, rapidly varied flow, spatially varied flow. Just a brief one line description that gradually varied flow means where the properties whichever are taken into consideration, if it varies gradually along the length of the channel, then those type of flow are called gradually varied flow. Those type of non-uniform flows are called gradually varied flow. In a rapidly varied flow, as the name suggests, the fluid properties, it will be varying rapidly. For example, the height of water or the velocity of water, it may change rapidly from one section to another section. Spatially varied flow, suppose if some quantities of water or volume of water, if it is added in between some two sections, or if it is continuously added at some locations and all, the amount of water is getting changed, the total volume of water is getting changed, spatially it is changing. So, that type of flows are called spatially varied flow, and we have separate modules to discuss on these aspects. We are not going to describe it in this particular model. What do you mean by, say, in a particular, if you take an arbitrary channel, you can describe say the depth of channel as y. Forget about the Cartesian coordinate system which we are given earlier. Let me talk it in terms of y here. The depth of water at any channel section, that is this y, you can represent it as a quantity. The bottom width, you can represent it as a quantity. You can also represent the top width of the channel, that is also a quantity. You can also represent, say, the wetted perimeter, that is this much length of the perimeter, it is wetted by water in any cross section. You can define it as a channel geometric terminology. So, that is called wetted perimeter P. So, you can define it for any cross section, say in the rectangular cross section, in the trapezoidal cross section, in the triangular cross section, maybe semicircular cross section. Whichever cross sectional forms you observe in your various courses, or whichever labs or even in fields and all, whichever type of cross sectional canals you have observed, you can define these terminologies. These terminologies are almost standard in almost all textbooks and all. we will be using some of the properties to define some hydraulic properties. For example, you might have heard about the term called hydraulic radius. What is meant by hydraulic radius? It can be defined based on the geometries given. Whatever geometries has been given, it can be defined, and that definition is unique. Irrespective of the type of channel sections, you can name it appropriately. Right? So, what is meant by hydraulic radius? It is a term developed from the channel cross section. It is very much used in our fluid flow analysis, especially the channel flow analysis and all various place instances. You will find the term hydraulic radius. From the channel geometry, irrespective of whatever type of channel cross sections available, hydraulic radius is defined as the area of the cross section divided by the wetted perimeter given to you. Say if it is a rectangular cross section, your P is nothing but B plus 2y. If it is triangular cross section, you know the area, how to evaluate the area if y is given to you, and if this width is given to you. If it is a semicircular one, so irrespective of the channel cross sectional areas, you can define the term called hydraulic radius as A by P. Similarly, another term is called hydraulic depth, that also we will be dealing in some of the other classes. So, today lecture we would like to wind up now. We will also be conducting quiz number 2 based on today's lecture. So, please note some of the questions for quiz number 2. So, in quiz 2, you have to tell the difference between prismatic and non-prismatic channel in 2 lines. Prismatic and non-prismatic channel difference. In 2 sentences, maximum 2 sentences. The next question is, based on the parameter randomness, based on the parameter randomness, you can define any fluid property as dash and dash. That is, how do you define a fluid property based on the parameter randomness? If randomness is present and randomness is absent, what are those? That you have to fill in the blanks. The third question for the quiz, you have to define what is hydraulic radius. So, in the quiz number 2, we will be having only 3 questions. You are requested to answer them and submit them in another 1 minute. The solutions The solutions for quiz 1. The first question is asked you was, who suggested the quantity called pressure is not having any direction? It was the scientist Pascal. The second question raised to you was, who was the scientist who developed barometer first? It was the scientist Torricelli. So, name the scientist who measured velocity of flow in a river by his own pedometer methods. Leonardo da Vinci. Give the names of some well-known hydraulic projects in India, and that is an individual question. I hope some of you might have, or all of you might have answered appropriately according to his or her own choices. There are various hydraulic projects in India. I do not want to illustrate them, it is up to you to illustrate some 5 names. The solution for quiz 2. What is meant by prismatic and non-prismatic channel? The solution is, if the cross-sectional area of a channel, if it is uniform for a considerable stretch or length of the channel, then that channel is called prismatic channel. If the cross section it is varying with respect to time, then with respect to the channel length, that is called non-prismatic channel, as you see in rivers, natural rivers and drains. Next, second question asked to you was, based on the parameter randomness, you can define any fluid properties as, say, if randomness is not present, then that property is called deterministic fluid property. If randomness is present, then that fluid property we suggest it is having stochastic or probabilistic property. The third question asked to you was, what is meant by hydraulic radius? Hydraulic radius, we gave it symbolically as R. It is the area of cross section divided by wetted perimeter. Fine. So, like this we would like to wind up today's lecture. In the next lecture we will continue with the same module on the different topics which are to be covered there. You are requested to come prepare in the next class as well, and also be attentive in the next lecture. Thank you.